Hey guys,
Hey.
we are going to review week 6 of the Armor of God study by Priscilla Shirer. We completed week 6 this week, or really last week. We took a week off, and it was the helmet of salvation. It opens up by saying, "Your salvation is your liberation." In Galatians 5:1 it says, "It was for freedom that Christ set us free. Therefore keep standing firm and do not be subject again to a yoke of slavery." Salvation is not just a redemption, it is also a defensive protective device, which I always think of salvation as being Jesus died on the cross to save us of our sins, and because of that we can go to heaven. We have that opportunity and that gift. But what she explains through the process of accepting salvation fully is that it's not just about redemption. It's not just about the redemption of Jesus died for us to save us of our sins, but it's also something that we can use in our daily lives to help us live a life that more aligns with Christ. Salvation was meant to implement an entire new way of thinking into your life. So it was meant to not just to transform your idea of where you go after you die. It's not just about that idea. It's about really transforming who you are today.
I like how she says that salvation, we have it and we need to use it. So it's there waiting for us to use it, and actions are stemmed by our mind. So, and that goes to the section where she talks about, which is my favorite part. It's here. Set your mind on things above, not on the things that are on earth. For you have died, and your life is hidden with Christ in God. In a way, she started talking about how negative thinking is like poison, and when you poison your mind with those negative things, that's when your body. You remember her talking about the doctor? Who's the doctor? Where's that at?
The neuroplastician.
Yes. The neuroplastician talks about how it really does, like, your thinking and your mind really, really does affect your health. And you can poison yourself with those thoughts, and it really, really take effect on your health, your stress levels, everything. But
by definition, neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections. So, reorganizing your thoughts, reorganizing the way you live your life, reorganizing how your mind works and how your heart works.
Our thoughts are okay. In other words, we consider that our thoughts are intangible, and theoretically, Dr. Leaf can prove through decades of research that they are actually very real, having measurable effects on our physical brain and bodies. The enemy knows this. Satan knows that, and that's why he tries to attack our mind with all these ways of thinking, like, oh, she doesn't like me, I shouldn't talk to her, or like, I'm never going to get healthy, I'm just all those negative things. That is Satan, because he knows the mind is very powerful.
2 Corinthians 10:4-5 says, "The weapons of our warfare are not worldly, but are powerful through God for the demolition of strongholds. We demolish arguments and every high-minded thing that is raised up against the knowledge of God. We are submitting every thought and every emotion to obey Christ." I used a different Bible, so I don't know if I had the right words for that.
It was pretty much the same.
Okay.
Just different words.
But basically, what that's saying is the weapons that you have to defeat Satan are not worldly. They're spiritual. It is the helmet of salvation that you have that you can use to protect yourself and demolish the strongholds that hold on to you so tightly and keep you from fulfilling the purpose that God has for you, or keep you from realizing that person that you thought didn't like you is actually one of your really good friends, or could be. So it's really important to think about salvation not just as, Jesus dying on the cross, but as something that you can actually use in your daily life to protect your mind and your heart.
Right. Like, the spiritual part of it will have rewards or benefits through the physical part.
I like that it made a little note here. It's a quote from Beth Moore that says, "The enemy cannot make us do anything. He can only lead us to do things."
I marked that.
Because, and that's it's really tricky to think of, because you blame some of your sinful things on the enemy. Well, the enemy made me do it by making me feel a certain way or whatever, but I feel like there's a lot of power in that statement. It gives us a little bit more power, because it tells us that even though the enemy may make us feel a certain way, may make us feel insecure or fearful or whatever it is in your life, even though that he makes us feel that way and it feels very real, we have the power to say no. We have the power to take up the shield of faith and the helmet of salvation and all the other things that we've gone over here and defeat the enemy by not submitting to what he's put out there for us.
She lists 3 steps and ways of, I guess, dealing with, where was I going with that? What are these called? With dealing with ways to, I guess, not think negatively. Okay, the step 1 is identify. Identify the negative thoughts that keep entering your mind. And 2, confess. Confess to God. Where's it at? Your thought processes to God and agree with Him about your responsibility in helping to construct these strongholds in your life. And then 3, dismantle. Dismantle the stronghold by taking your thoughts captive, then renewing your perspective and understanding through the concentrated, deliberate applying of God's truth.
I like under the dismantle, she says, taking thoughts captive means controlling them instead of allowing them to control you.
Yes.
And I think our thoughts control us more than we'd like to admit.
A lot of us, yeah. So true. Because if you're, what's a good example? If you get a bad health report or something that didn't go your way, your immediate reaction is like panic mode, and then you go crazy and you start thinking, I'm never going to get better, and then like that just, your body and your mind react to that negative, and you're just defeated. You're already defeated because you're not giving God the chance to work through your life. I feel like a lot of people do that. They go off what the doctor says and that you're never going to get better, or any kind of situation. They don't give God a chance. I
think that's interesting too, because we really choose the hard way out. Mm-hmm. We don't immediately go to God and think, okay, what is happening here? God has got me. We are going to figure this out, or somehow finding solution in the Lord, not like a worldly solution, like a step-by-step of how to fix it or of what you're going to do, but just finding solution and peace by trusting the Lord. I like that example. It talked about mistaken identity and how the enemy wants you to suffer from a case of mistaken identity because it makes his job a lot easier. So when you forget who you are, I did a lesson for Honor Fit 2 weeks ago, I think, or maybe 3 weeks ago, and I said that every time I left my house as a teenager, my mom would tell me, or teenager, young adult, college student, she would tell me, remember who you are and where you came from. And I thought about that as I left, But there were a lot of times where I mistook my identity, because where I came from, the woman that raised me and the family that I came from probably wouldn't have approved with some of the things that I did. And that's kind of the same with the Lord too. You have to remember who you are and where you came from. And even though that you might make a mistake, God still loves you. Like even though things change and things get bad and your heart is just tormented by all the things that are happening in your life, God is still there. He still loves you. Remember who you are. You're his daughter, and you're his prized possession, and where you came from. And you came from heaven. You came from the Lord. He created you. And I think that that's an identity that we have to always remember, that that's who we are.
I don't think we actually fathom that we are the daughter of like the most powerful God, like created heaven and earth. Like we forget that we're his daughters. Like
imagine if you were the daughter of a president, or the daughter of
a
king, or
which we are,
or like a millionaire. I mean, I don't know, somebody that you hold high on a pedestal and think, wow, that's really powerful to be in that position. I mean, it's even greater than that, because we are all the daughters of the King of the world.
And when you recognize that, God sees that, and He really favors those who really, really recognize that they're His daughter. They're His true, like, you're filled. Your soul is just filled with love and so much. Just it's awesome.
It's a freeing feeling. I listened to a couple of different videos on YouTube the other day with Rebecca Lyons and a couple other different people, and one of the things she asked them what their definition of freedom was. And one girl said, my definition of freedom is letting go of the things that I hold on to just in case God doesn't come through. And I was like, whoa. Freedom is letting go of the worry of money, letting go of the worry of my job, letting go of the worry of my family, just in case. Like, sometimes we feel like we have to worry and hold on to things because we're just not sure if God really has this. We're not sure if he's really going to come through for us. We might say that we believe that, but the action of completely submitting to him and moving forward in faith is completely different. I think it does mean letting go of all the other things and walking in freedom in Christ, in your relationship with him. Colossians 3:2-3 says, set your mind on the things above, not on the things that are on earth. For you have died, and your life is hidden with Christ in God. And I really love that verse because it reminds me that not to think about what's happening in the world, not to think about what's happening in my own life or even focus on that. It's about the Lord. It's about focusing on the matters of heaven and the battle that, God is trying to fight for my heart every day. And it says, for you have died and your life is hidden with Christ in God. And that's also relieving to me and freeing, because it's saying that the life that I used to live, it's gone, it's dead, it's hidden. It doesn't matter because I've accepted Jesus as my heart. I've accepted God as my Father. So everything else gets washed away.
She has a list in the back toward the end of our inheritance and identity in Christ. And just some of my favorites are, I have peace with God, Romans 5:1. I have access to God's wisdom, James 1:5. I'm completely forgiven, Colossians 1:14. I am a temple in which God dwells. So that's where I really strongly feel that's why we have to take care of our temples, which is our body, and worship God through taking care of ourselves. And then I am chosen by Christ to bear fruit, and whatever that fruit may be in your life, John 15:16. And then I am holy and I share in God's heaven, Heavenly Calling. Hebrews 3:1. Those were my favorites. I mean, there's a lot listed, but those were the ones that really spoke to my heart.
I have a lot of the same ones, but a couple that I had that she didn't have were I'm Christ's ambassador, 2 Corinthians 5:20. I am completely forgiven, Colossians 1:14. Did you have that one? You did. I am tenderly loved by God, Jeremiah 31:3. And I think that's all that I had that she didn't have.
She only told us to pick like 1 or 3, maybe. But
Yeah,
I kept going.
Or 6. I picked 6.
There were too many.
Yeah, they're really good. We're going to close out with this quote that is in the back here, and it says, "Our praying needs to be pressed and pursued with an energy that never tires, a persistency which will not be denied, and a courage that never fails." E.M. Bounds. I love that. All right, well, that is week 6 of our study, and we have one video left, so we're going to...
Since it's filled out all the way, here's the picture again.
Oh, yeah. So what is our last one?
It's the sword of, or the spirit of, the sword of spirit.
Yes, the sword of spirit. Not that guy.
Yeah.
So we're going to watch that video, and we'll get back to you guys. We're really sad that this is almost over, but it's so good. I'm sure we'll do it again soon.
Yeah.
And if you guys if you guys are joining with us, or doing this study by yourself, definitely check out the rest of the videos and comment below and let us know what you think about it and your thought process through it. And we'd love to comment back and communicate with you about it. So we'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.